Money Talk, brought to you by Taylor's AKPK.
Now, moving on, let us welcome our stars of the night. Money Talk Fresh Graduate Essentials featured speakers Mr. Adley and MJ. First off, Adley is the co-founder of the Millennial Finance, which aims to help young people like us understand their money in a fun and simple way. He graduated university in July 2020 with a law degree and has worked multiple jobs, including a scuba diving tour guide, a legal researcher, and a DJ. Interesting. He's currently working as a digital marketer, running the Millennial Finance, and freelancing as a digital marketing consultant. Hello, Adley. Happy to have you on board.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Thank you. All right. So next we have Mingjie, or better known as MJ, has worked as a research analyst and copywriter at Bursa-listed stock investing education training company for 3 years. There, he produced proprietary research on public equities and economic trends for the company's clients. Besides that, he facilitated many of the company's intensive educational courses, either as a trainer or a training assistant. He managed to train more than 500 students in just 3 years. Impressive, isn't it? Right now, he is the co-founder of FIRL, where he produces educational content online that helps people learn about the power of stock investing. Hello, MJ. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hello, thanks for having me. Welcome, everyone.
Great. So let's not talk a lot about me anymore. Let's just dive right into our main topic of today, being a fresh graduate or just a university student. Now, if you paid attention to me just now, I mentioned that Adley graduated in July last year. So, Adley, do you mind sharing with us how you started your own financial journey as a fresh grad?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Denise.
Thank you.
Before I share my story, just curious, of the 51 people in this room, or 53 now, how many of you are students and how many of you are graduates? If you're a student, just type student in the chat. If you are a graduate, just type graduate in the chat. Just curious, because I want to share my story based on where you are right now. Okay, lots of students. Okay, cool. Okay, so majority students. Okay, that's cool. So how I started my financial journey, the question is how I started my financial journey as a fresh grad. I actually started when I was still a student. So 2 graduates, I see you there. I'm a graduate too now. But I actually started my financial journey, you could say, when I was in my 2nd semester in uni. And at the time, I was living alone. I was renting a place, and I was basically living off my PTPTN loans. So I would say I was quite financially careless, and I would spend money on things that weren't really beneficial to me, or like I was just wasting money a lot. And I was living off PTPTN loans. So it wasn't a very sustainable thing. And it came to a point where one day I was at my place and my dad came to visit, and I didn't have enough money to last me for the next few months, because if you have a PTPTN loan, they give you like chunks in 6 months, right? So you get a chunk, and then the next 6 months you get a chunk. So when the chunk lands in your bank account and you're a student in your 2nd semester and you see that amount of money, then you're like, you feel good, right? And you feel like you kind of want to spend it. At least that's how I felt. So I was at a point where I spent majority of my chunk on things that didn't really matter. And so I saw my dad, and I had to borrow money from him to live so I can eat and pay my rent. And at that point, I realized when I was asking my dad and I saw his face and I saw him giving me the money and the interaction, it wasn't something that I wanted to keep up, or at least I told myself that was the last time I was going to do it. Right? I don't want to borrow money from my dad and have him like pay for my lifestyle because I was financially irresponsible when I had the money, when I had the PTPTN loans. So that was really the starting point of my financial journey. And from there, I looked for ways to solve the problem. So like any Gen Z or millennial, I went to Google. I just did my research and I got into books. So I got into personal finance books, and I read a couple of them, personal finance, social interaction, stuff like that. And from there, I had an idea, or I had a rough idea of what I had to do to solve my problem. And then I just tried to find any job that I could find. And at the time, when I was in my 2nd semester, one thing that I spent a lot of money on is clubbing. So I went to clubs a lot on the weekend, almost every weekend, going to bars or whatever. And one night, because I went so many times, the kind of manager there recognized me, and he always see like I bring my friends and stuff. So he said, "Oh, do you wanna like bring your friends, and then we'll pay you to bring people in, and we'll pay a commission based on how many things you sell and stuff like that." So that was kind of my first job, and from there I realized how important it was for me to be able to earn my own money, to be responsible for my own financial well-being, and that led me to learning more and taking up other jobs, different jobs, and yeah, here I am now. So from that point, I call it a financial awakening. Like when I talk to people about personal finance, I always ask them, when did you have your financial awakening? In a sense that when did you realize money was something you couldn't play around with, or something you had to take seriously? And to me, it was the time when I saw my dad and I had to borrow money from him so that I could survive for the next few months. So yeah, that's kind of my journey as a start.
Cool. So what about MJ? Like when you graduated?
So I actually did not put this inside. I actually did not graduate from uni. So I think I did international business at Help College. We had a trimester system. So in the fourth trimester, so it's I'm not talking about giving birth to babies, so the other type of trimester. This was a year and one semester. So I decided to quit. Now, why I decided to quit was because I was actually skipping classes all the time, but I wasn't as cool as Adley. I wasn't going to clubs and all that. What I was doing was I was just reading investing books, right? I was very interested in investing. So from there, and I didn't have a degree, and obviously I need to find a job. So I was just wondering, how am I going to do it, right? The way I am, I can't do, I can't be in auditing. I can't be, I hated accounting, which is very ironic now being an investor. But basically, I didn't know what to do, right? And I was pretty fortunate. One day, one of my uncle actually attended this investing seminar. And he said, "Hey, you're interested in investing, right?" Because I was skipping classes. If you guys know Help University, right opposite it, the old one, there's a Starbucks, right? So I would go there, I would buy my black tea latte, and I would actually either listen to audiobooks, watch videos, I'll use my data until the maximum, or I'll be reading books from Kindle, right? So that's what I was doing all the time. So I thought, like, I'm spending so much time to think and learn about all these things, and I'm not doing anything to my actual studies when I was at Help. So I decided to quit. Long story short, I joined the company that my uncle was at the seminar with, right? And from there, I could use my skills that I been reading in theory, and then I joined the company. Then I get practical experience, and then ever since then, it has been pretty fine for me. So your question is, how did I get interested in money, right? Specifically, so
Could be that.
I didn't. I mean, to be completely honest, I come from I would say semi-privileged background. My family never lacked anything. We're not like ultra wealthy or anything, but we're okay. So money wasn't something I thought very hard about. But I think, like many people, I had the idea that money is like the root of all evil kind of thing, or at best, it was kind of, it was kind of an annoyance, right? I didn't really understand money deeply. But there was no like specific moment that I encountered where now I take money seriously. It was through just my interest in investing, and naturally you realize, and I think we'll spend this talk or this discussion rather talking about it, which is that through my process of understanding investing, I then stumble onto things like personal finance, right? Because if you want to invest, you kind of need capital, and the only way you can have capital is to actually work and save. So those are two very big things that I had to learn. So I actually did it the opposite way. I think for most people, they kind of learn the importance of money, learn how to save for that. Then they talk about investing. Mine was like, I wanted to invest. And then from there, I learned about money and all that.
Cool. So as you said, we are, young people are more into investments right now. So like, a lot of university students nowadays, they're always looking into things to invest on, like to have like a sort of like a side income. So how would you guys advise a student to start investing? So like MJ said that, we have to have money first, but what about any other ways to start investing? From Adley, maybe?
I think since MJ has more, he went investing first. I think it would be
Mm.
interesting to hear what he has to say first.
Cool.
Okay, so thanks for throwing it to me at least. Nah, just kidding. No, but seriously, here's my biggest advice, and actually we say this all the time on either our channel or the people that we talk about on a personal basis, right? You have to realize that investing is not a magic pill. Looking for, you see, you look for side income when you have a main income. If you're a graduate, you probably don't have a main income.
True.
So think of things in simple steps, right? If you're trying to think of like what side income you want to have, it's a bit like asking, like what color do you want your car to be? You have to kind of think what car you want in the first place, or whether you can even afford a car, right? So, and it's the same thing, right? You need to first actually get a job, right? That's like the number one, right? You don't even talk about saving money, because if you have no job, what money are you saving? And you need to think of like how you're going to develop skills and provide value to the world so that you can get that income. And the more value you provide, the more money you're going to get. So you start there first, right? And then after that, you learn how to save money. I believe at least channels talk a lot more about personal finance than we do. So you go check out his channel. Basically, you need to learn how to save. You need to learn, and of course, we'll expand more on this later on. You need to learn how to save. If you're a bit more advanced, you need to learn how to pick the right insurance so that you can protect your savings. And then after that, only you start investing. After that, then only you start thinking of side incomes, learning how to invest in stock, cryptocurrencies, or to build your own business and whatnot. So that is actually my advice. Like people, like too many young people, and I was one of them as well, is that they start with thinking of investing, right? Because we all dream, right? Oh, just with 1,000 ringgit, how do we make it become 20,000? And then we take that 20,000 and we make it 400,000. That's what we all want, right? Because we all want the shortcut. We all want to make money without working, and that's natural, right? But then the problem is that reality requires you to use your labor first. So if any of you are economics students, maybe let's go a little bit deep into this. Basically, there's two ways to make money in an economy. One is through labor, one is through interest or capital. So the way you make money from capital is you just take the capital, put it in something, and then it generates more capital, right? Money makes more money. And that's attractive, right? Because you just put in the money and then that's it. The problem is that you need to think of getting that capital first. And the only way you can do that, unless you got rich parents, is labor. You actually need to work. So yeah, that is my somewhat short answer to the question.
Right. How about Adley?
Yeah, I completely agree with MJ, man. Like, interesting, right? Oh, you want to make side income, you have to have main income. So you want to make income, you have to work. Surprising, but yeah, that's basically it. And like Denise said, a lot of students right now, a lot of young people, they have an interest in investing, and I think it's because investing is trendy now, right? It's the hype. It's become popular, and you see it more on social media and stuff like that, and young people are more inclined to at least be interested in it. So we've had people our age, or young people, ask us on our Instagram, on YouTube, like, where should we invest our money? We want to have some side income, right? So the thing that I think you have to realize is that your investment, let's say, like an average range, your investment will give, at least in capital, would give like, let's say 7 to 10% per year. So if you want to have an income from your investment, you think about 7% over a year. So if you have 1 million ringgit, and 7% a year, you get like what, 70K? And 70K is like what, 5-6K a month. So you can comfortably live off that. So if you have 500K, you have 3K a month. So think about how much capital or how much money you have to amass first before you can actually call it income. And that is one thing I think people miss when they think, oh, I want to invest because I want some side income. Maybe because investment returns have been a lot more than 7 to 10%. You know, you got a lot of things that are growing very fast. But at the same time, I would say this: if investing is not your interest, if you don't nerd out or geek out about fundamental analysis, technical analysis, about investing, looking at charts and stuff like that, then you're probably better off sticking and to what you are good at and what you enjoy, or maybe what you study and what you want a career in. And you just be really good at that, and you make your money from there, and then you can start thinking about where you want to put your money for investments. And so I kind of want to switch your perspective of investing, because if we think about investing, we always think about people in suits or in brokers or charts and stuff like that. So, but I want to kind of switch your perspective that you are always investing in some form, in one way or another, right? So the fact that you are here, 58 of you are here tonight on a Friday night, the fact that you're here tonight is you are investing your time to learn in exchange for something you hope to gain in the future, which maybe it's knowledge, maybe it's network or whatever it is. So in a way, you are always investing. You're always investing your time, and you're always investing your energy. So I can share my story of how I first started my first investment when I was a student, when I was 19. At the time, like coming back from my story earlier, I didn't have much money to last. So I had like, I think 1,000 ringgit to last a few months. So I had to think about how do I make this 1,000 ringgit cover my expenses for next 2 or 3 months. And I kind of had to grow that money. So I thought, I've been reading the books, I've been listening to audiobooks, looking online and trying to figure out how to solve the problem. And I was introduced to digital marketing, which is what I do now. So I took a risk. I took a course to learn digital marketing. And I think it cost me 400 ringgit or 800 ringgit over 2 months. And that was kind of my first investment. And I managed to make back that money and double my money within the next few months, within the next 3 months, I think. I got my first like freelance job after that. So that was kind of a breakthrough moment for me for my first investment, because I thought like, oh, I could use my money that I have right now, the capital that I have right now, to plus my effort, plus my time and energy, plus my brain, and make something out of it and make my money grow. So that was the first time I kind of really understood or really experienced how to grow my money with some capital and also some, I would call it human capital. So energy, time, labor, whatever it is. And that was my first time. So my second time now, I have a bit of income coming in, was paid 1,000 ringgit a month. It started at 500, but then the next month I managed to convince the guy to pay me 1,000. So second time I invested was in a little DJ console. So I've been working at a club for a while, 3-4 months. And I thought, instead of me like trying to get people to come, messaging them, going downstairs and talking to people, what do I try being a DJ so that I could, grow, I could have people see me and want to come to watch me play, so I don't have to talk to so many people. I could just play music. And of course, I thought it was pretty cool. I really like music. So I bought a small DJ console so I could practice and learn. And I had a friend who taught me, and I just kept experimenting myself. So I bought the DJ console for like 2,000 ringgit. And I thought that, okay, if I could make this investment worth it, then 2,000 ringgit is fine, right? So I just took a lot of time to practice. And then the same thing happened, like that 2,000 ringgit turned to a lot more because I keep getting gigs. I get like private parties here and there. So yeah, when you talk about investments, those are the first things that I think of, because those are really my first investments, really. Yeah, for me, it was really foreign to invest in things like, at the time, 2019, 2018, investing in stocks or crypto or whatever wasn't trendy. So I didn't know anything about it. So if you say investing or you talk about investments, that's what comes to my mind first. And I think that unless you are a trust fund baby, you have a lot of money, and maybe you inherited some money and you can put it in the stock market, or you like playing with stocks, you like trading, you like those kind of things. Unless you fall into those categories, then your best bet is to find a skill that you can get really good at, that is in demand, and that people will pay you for. And yeah, I think that's the best way to go. So if you want to invest in your human capital first, especially if you're still a student.
So I think I can conclude what you guys said. It's like the best thing to invest on is knowledge, right? That's like really something important.
Let's do some math, right? So I'm in the stock market field, right? And if you're good in the stock market, and when I say good, I mean people will give you millions and billions to manage, is when you generate 20% a year in returns. That is very, very, very high, very good. But let's take at least example for and see what kind of returns that he got, right? So he said he doubled his investment in 3 to 4 months. Am I right? Did I get that right? Now, for those of y'all maybe not so good with math, maybe that doesn't mean a lot, right? But for those of y'all who know some of the basics of compound interest, right? That is 100% return in 3 months, which means if you analyze it, he has made 400% on his investment in a year. So that's what we mean when we're talking about the actual returns on investment and real investing in yourself. You can really see those sort of returns. You just have to count,
Cool.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I want to kind of add a bit on that too. I would say an asterisk to that is that, the best thing to invest is in yourself and knowledge, but it's not just money. Like we talk about, investing is not just money. You have to invest your time, your effort, and energy, right? If you could just pay money and be rich, then everyone would do it. If you could just swipe your credit card and lose weight, then everyone would do it.
Oh
but
my
all those
God.
things need money and also time and effort from your side. The more money you have, maybe the less effort you can put in, and the more effort you put in, maybe the less money you need. So that's how it works.
Yes, that's really true. So I remember Ellie saying that you have PTPTN loan. Would you advise students to invest a portion of their PTPTN loan or like any other types of student loans?
See, PTPTN is in a very unique spot because it's one of the most generous student loans in the world, I would say. Like if you go to the West, like UK or US, like their student loans have very high interest rates. But for us, it's only 1%. And majority of people still don't pay it off. So there are a lot of stories where people use their PTPTN money for investments because of the interest rate is so low. And I would say if you need to use it to cover your expenses, or if you need to use it to buy things that you need, let's say tuition fees, books, rent, food, whatever it is, then use it for that. But at the same time, try to save an amount. Doesn't matter how much it is, 5%, 10%, 1%, but just try to save an amount, because if you're not making an income, especially, then that is in a way an income for you. So maybe you're saving it twice a year. So I would say try to save a portion of it, no matter how small, just to build that habit of when I receive money, I set a portion aside for myself. And set a portion aside for yourself means setting a portion aside for your future self in maybe 20, 30 years, and not setting a portion of yourself to buy Nike shoes or something like that. So I would say save or invest like a portion of it. At least save it. If you want to invest it, you can, but just know what you're doing. Yeah.
That's true. So as for MJ, you said that you didn't have a job, and a question from the participants is that how would you manage your money if you don't have a job and you have no income?
Okay, so it depends on when you don't have a job, right? So if you don't have a job after working 5 to 6 years, let's say, then the answer is quite straightforward, which is actually just you should have money saved up by then, right? And to enable you to stay jobless for quite a while, right? That's why when I quit my job for example, actually, funny story, I actually quit my job the same day Tun Mahathir stepped down. So I always remember. He copied me. I tendered my resignation at 10. He tendered his at 3 p.m. So I always remember that day. It's in March, right? So why I was able to quit and then start doing Viral full time, for example, is because I could survive without any income for the next 5 years. It didn't matter to me. So how is that possible? Well, that's where the basics of living within your means, only buying what you need, and having actually very inexpensive habits. Like I like to read, I like to watch documentaries. When I go out, I'm either working out at a gym, it doesn't cost a lot. I built a gym in my house, which actually doesn't cost a lot as well. A lot of people don't know this, as long as you have the basics. So it's actually having inexpensive habits, because people say when it comes to saving money, it's you need to spend less than you make, right? For example, or you need to be disciplined, or they say things like that. But the deeper reason people spend all this money, even though they shouldn't be, is because there's something that they are trying to solve when it comes to their psychology. So take, for example, some of the biggest killers, right? Having a fancy car, drinking alcohol for non-Muslim friends, gambling, all these things, right? Why do people do that? Like, I think if you ask all of them to list the negatives of all this, they will be able to do it as good as someone who is not an addict. Well, why do they still do it? It's because they find that those are the things that interest them, and those are the things that fill up, what's inside of them. So your job is to find something that is inexpensive. You cannot escape. You need something to have fun or enjoy in your life. You just make sure it's affordable. So like, working out, reading books. I'm fortunate in that what I like happens to make money, which is investing. So I'm lucky in that sense. It doesn't work for everybody, but even if you like to catch up with friends, you eat somewhere cheap, let's say, whatever it is, then it's fine, right? You stop comparing yourselves to other people. Don't compare to other people's best, compared to your previous best, right? That's what I like to say to some of our followers, is that, like, comparing yourself to someone else is is very unhealthy, because you don't know where the person came from, right? What if the guy's parents was 10 times wealthier than yours? Then you're just setting up a bar so high that you are destined to fail, right? So that's more the psychology of spending. Now that's a question of, if you have been working for a while, right? And you have no income, what do you do? When you have done that already, you have more skills and more things at your disposal to play around with. Now the question is, if you are a fresh grad and if you want to enter the workspace but you can't find a job, how do you do it? And quite frankly, there's no easy answer, right? Especially in the situation that we are in. The only thing I can say is that, going back to the basics, you need to develop skills that are useful. And quite frankly, and one of the reasons why I was very comfortable in quitting universities is because universities a lot of times don't prepare the students for real world skills, right? Like Atlee, for example, he made a lot of money, like, not I would say a lot, but he got a jump in his income because he took a course in digital marketing, which I assume he didn't learn in university, right? So so seek out alternative education. Watch YouTube channels like Atlee's YouTube channel, for example. Just, there's a lot of free stuff online that can teach you to obtain skills that will make you more employable. And you go back to a basic. And in fact, in my previous company, I was also somewhat in charge of HR, because it was a small company, so you kind of have to do everything. And the big problem with CVs, if any of you are interested in learning how to write CVs, the problem with CVs is that they go on, they tell the company what they want, for example, but they have not actually said, okay, what does the company want and how they can help the company. Once you reframe that way, right, then I can assure you getting jobs are going to be a lot easier. You're saying, hey, company so-and-so, I read up about your history. I realize you have a problem in this department that I believe I have the skills to solve. Here are the reasons why I can solve it, right? One of the things that I wanted to do before I joined my other company was I was applying to a fund management company, right? So I had no degree. So how am I supposed to do it? Now, I don't know whether it would have been successful, but this is a tip you guys can actually consider if you want to be in the fund management industry. And that is to actually invest yourself with whatever little money, 10,000 ringgit, whatever it is, and actually record down your trades and actually write down the rationales for why you've invested in all these companies. And then do it for 6 months to a year, and then record all that down, send that as your CV. Then you show the fund management, hey, this is what I've done. So you got to get creative as to how you want to find a job, right? You need to be employable, you need to be valuable. And so that's one thing. Another pro tip is to actually work for very little. think of it, right? Most people who are graduates, right, they come out, unfortunately, they have an expectation of what their salary should be. So everyone has the expectation, right? And why people have that is because everybody else has it. But imagine if you tell a company, like, hey, I'm going to do the same job, but for like half the price. You're straight away in the door. Now, it's not a good position to be in because you're still not earning enough money. That's true. But just go for an income that is enough to survive. And the key thing is to get a foot into the company and start. Let's say if you don't want to open your own business, you want to join another business, right? Is to get your foot into the company, start making connections, start being valuable, and from there, shouldn't be a problem from there.
So what if like after we graduate and we get a job? Now, how should we change our investment like plans or things like that?
Okay, this is a separate question. So I don't know if you want to ask, get at least views on the first question.
Sure.
Yeah, so for me, it's quite simple. Everything stays the same. Don't go lower, but go higher. So once you get a job, invest more money because you're making more income. So as your income grows, you want your investment to also grow. A lot of things, a lot of people get stuck in this sense where let's say they make 3K a month. And when they make 3K a month, they can put 500 ringgit away, right? So let's say 100 ringgit. So that's fine. But when they make 4K a month, they're still saving 100 ringgit a month. When they make 6K a month, they're still saving 100. When they make 10K, they're still saving maybe 200, 300. So you kind of want to put yourself in a position where your proportions of how much money you're investing is always growing. Because ultimately you want to invest most of your money when you can, because let's face it, like, you earn 3K a month, you can live, let's say, comfortably, and you earn 10K a month, you can still live on a 3K a month salary if you want. Maybe you want a bit more comfort or you want a bit more luxury. That's fine. But there is a ceiling to how much you can spend. There's a ceiling to how much you can spend on food. And you can't eat everything, and you can't live everywhere. So there's a ceiling to how much you can spend. But for investing, raise it up. Like put as much as you can to and while still living comfortably. So that's kind of my answer.
So we also have a question in our registration from one of them. They asked that, what if I want to start a startup company? I want to build a startup company. How should we start investing in it during the early stages?
Right. I think before that, I would like to hear what MJ has to say if he has something to add on to the previous question.
No, because you had a question about their investment plans, right?
Yeah.
Like, how should they start?
Yep.
Yeah, I think here I can only say is to be consistent, right? And try to think in percentages, right? Like maybe 20-30% of your income every month, like for example, right, to be placed into whatever investment, right, that you are passionate about, and you can actually develop some sort of skills or mastery. I think that's key, to be focused on. The problem with people who start investing, once let's say they're making money and then they save money, so now they got a bunch of money to invest. The next big problem I notice in a lot of our clients is they like to try many different things. I call it the rojak portfolio, right? So they'll invest in stocks, cryptocurrencies, properties, and then they'll start their MLM business. Then they'll sell facial products, and then they'll invest in agar wood and bird nest business. Like it's all over the place, right? So I would usually say focus on one or maybe two different investments and become good at it. So that's all I'll say about how you should develop your investment plan.
So what about the startup company thingy? Like, how should they start investing in the early stages?
Okay, so I think thanks to the modernity, right, there are many businesses today you can start with very little capital, right? Like what we are doing, what Ellie and I are doing, there's not much capital involved, except the camera only. Right?
Yeah.
You just need to buy a camera, and then you talk, and then you develop a business model around it. You make some money, you reinvest it, buy a good mic, and when you have a good mic, then you reinvest it. Pay for better editing software, things like that. So the key thing is that one thing I realized is that, and this is only available because of the modern world, because of the 21st century, try to start a business without a lot of capital required. But even if you have to, make sure the capital is very limited. Okay, so for example, right, a lot of people want to start a cafe, right, or a food business, right? They always have this dream, want to sell coffee, whatever. Okay, fine, no problem with that. The problem begins when you straight away jump from Mr. Know Nothing to owning a cafe, right, in wherever. Instead, what you should be doing is to go to food fairs, for example, set up a small tent and actually test your products out, or maybe get a food truck and sell your, drive your trucks around and go do research as to, where you can sell these food items the best. And the reason you want to do that is, again, you want to prove that your product actually works. So the problem again is, like Ellie said just now, is that people want to make money by throwing money at it. And so they think that if they have a lot of money, they can borrow money from the bank, from their parents, they can raise capital from whoever, whatever, and they save money. They got, some of them have well-paying jobs. And then they think because of that, then they have a right to do well in business. That's not true. You actually need to prove that people actually want your products, you actually have customers, and then only you start investing a lot into the business. Until you can do that, then you're just wasting money and time, basically. So yeah, I would start there. The second thing I will add is try to start a business not because of money. You should have money saved up before you start a business, because the key thing about business, I realize, is that you actually need to be quite calm when you make decisions. And if you only have like 50 ringgit in your bank account every month, it's very hard to be calm, right? So that is something you need to take note of. And that's rare, because a lot of people think that when they start a business, it's kind of like, it's like all in, you do or die. That's not true. In fact, the average successful entrepreneur fails 4 to 5 times before they succeed. That's true. You have to take that in mind. And so the question then is, what scenario can you build for yourself where you can fail many, many times and you can bounce back very easy, right? Like, so for example, the business I own right now, which is Viral. Like, if let's say there's no business that month, that's fine, right? I don't have to borrow money. I don't need a lot of capital to run the company. So even if there's no business that month, I'll survive. So that's how you need to think.
How about athlete?
Right. I mean, MJ, everything you're saying is so spot on, man. Like,
Thank you,
I should read your blog more.
Impressed.
I don't have a blog, though. Maybe I should.
Resonate with that. Yeah. So I'm just curious, out of everyone in this room, like, how many of you have own a business or are interested in starting a business in the future? If you own a business or you're interested, just type me in the chat so I know how many people are actually interested in like entrepreneurship.
Nice. What do you do, Denise?
I wanted to sell clothing. Yeah.
Okay, so this session is now Shark Tank. So please tell us about your business.
I used to do it when I was like in school. I buy it from China and then I resell it to people, like how Shopee is doing it, basically. Right.
Okay.
And my parents were telling me it's illegal, like you don't pay tax.
All right. I'm interested now. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The question is, like, if you want to start a company, how should you start investing early? And if you answered me in the chat, like, and if you're young and you want to start a business in the future, that's just something you're interested in, then you have quite a head start in terms of investing when you're still young. So short answer is invest in your skills. Right? Your communication skills, like as a business owner, communication is like super important. So things like negotiation, leadership, how you're going to talk to people, how you're going to motivate people who work for you, and also like problem solving skills, how you're going to see opportunities, how you're going to understand what people need in the market, what people want, and stuff like that. So from my context, like MJ said, businesses that have low startup capital to start, and I think this applies for other businesses as well. And the founder, the person who starts the business, you want to be the bedrock of the business. You want to be able to have the skills so that you can support your business if your business needs support. Because business. So if you look at business, right, like revenue goes up and down, right? Some months are good, some months are not so good, right? Money goes up and down. But if you have a skill as a founder and you can generate your own income, then even if your business is struggling, you can always rely on yourself, the founder or the founders, to generate income for the business. So if let's say your business is in trouble or your business needs money to expand, instead of getting a loan, you can, oh, my business needs this amount of money. Let me go spend this amount of time so that I can make that money and pump it into my business. So I always think that as a business owner, you kind of want to be the bedrock of your business, and you kind of want to be really the foundation of it, right? Until your business goes to like maybe 1 million, 2 million a year, 10 million, when you get really big, then that's a different story. But if you're starting out, especially small businesses, the founder, you have to be really strong, and you have to be the foundation of the business, and you have to be able to support it, and it has with your own skills. And yeah, so invest in your skills and get really good at communication. I would say communication and problem solving, negotiation, leadership, if you want to be a business owner.
Okay, I got that in. All right. So since you two are also, online, you're online and telling people all this investing and stuff. So another question we have from the registration forms is that there are a lot of like internet gurus, marketing their investing strategies or like shims. And as university students, of course, when we see this, we are interested in it. But how should we accept the risk of like trusting these people or avoid it? Maybe like MG,
yeah. So what you want is to first and foremost look at what I would say look at what type of marketing they're doing and what are they promising. If they're promising things like Lamborghini and nice life and passive 5-figure passive income in 3 months kind of thing, then you can it's all about the promise. Actually, what are they promising? From there you can straight away know. Like if someone says, I will teach you how to make 15% a month in the stock market, yeah, straight away the guy's a fraud, right? Just put it simply. But if he's saying, I'll teach you how to make 15% a year, then like, oh, okay, maybe I can do more research, right? Then you're like, okay, that's realistic. It's above average. It's better than the average, but 6 to 10% you get in the stock market. But it's within reality. So that's the first thing. The second thing is look, just go by numbers, right? You see, risk is a very subjective thing, and what I mean by that is it doesn't mean that it's opinion based. What I mean is that it's very subject to the individual, right? If both you and I, right, are given this opportunity where if we flip a coin, we have to, first of all, we have to put in, let's say, 50K to flip this coin. And if it's tails, we lose everything. If it's head, we triple our money. Now, is that risky or not? Well, you would say, well, it's 50-50. Both you and I have a 50-50% chance, right, to get that. And that might be a good idea. That might not be a good idea. But what if I told you, right, that I'm making 50K a year, but you're making 500K a year? Do you see how now things change when it comes to risk, right? If I'm making 50K a year, like it doesn't make sense for me to flip the coin, because if I get it wrong, 1 year's salary is done for. But if you earning 500K a year, it makes sense for you to go for it because you're only losing maybe 8% of your salary that year. So it's pretty good deal, right? You sacrifice 8, you might get 24% of your salary back. So you need to think of it that way. Risk is subjective in that sense. So now back to the question, right? Like, what is the risk? A lot of these courses online, and I used to be from the industry, right? They charge thousands, right? In fact, my previous company, I don't know whether it's still true today, but if you get their full course, it will cost you about 17,000 ringgit. Now, if you're a student, is that something that you should even be entertaining? Answer is no, right? Chances are, like, how long does it take for you to make 17K, let alone save 17K, right? It's a long time. So you can just straight away, disregard these sort of courses. But if a course is maybe charging 200, 300, 400, 500 ringgit, and even, maybe even somewhere below 1,000, then maybe you can consider, right? Because it's within your affordability. So that's how you have to think of risk. Now, the fact is you sometimes don't know whether it's a scam beforehand, right? Sometimes they're so convincing, they say all the right words, and you are attracted to it, and that's fine. Like I fall into that trap as well, right? I shop on Shopee as well. I read the reviews. Oh, it's so nice. But then when I get it, like I just bought a app, a fake AirPod for 200 ringgit. I'm like, oh, what a steal! But guess what? Now when I work out using the AirPods, only the left one is working, and when I charge it, after 1 week of charging, the left one I managed to charge it to 98%. The right one is charged to 7%, right? But the reviews are fantastic. So you cannot, but you see, it's only 200 ringgit, right? That's fine to me. But if the AirPods was 2,000 ringgit, then I'm a fool for making the purchase, right? So that's how you should think, right? You cannot avoid scam. You cannot know every scam beforehand. You just need to know how much you're going to put into it. And if it's a scam and you lose it, can you take the pain or not? And can you take that loss of money? If you can, go for it. If you cannot, move on. There's so many courses out there.
Yeah, that's true. How about Adley?
Yep, agree with what MJ said. Risk. If let's say you find a course you really like, 500 ringgit. It's something you're very passionate about. You really want to do it. Let's say if you pay that 500 ringgit and it doesn't work out, then you go hungry for the month, or you pay your rent late. Then don't go for it. But let's say if you pay that 500 ringgit, it doesn't work out. Maybe you eat less sushi. Maybe you have less nice stuff. Then that's fine. So know how much you're willing to lose, because everything you do is a risk, right? So just know how much you're willing to lose. So on the flip side of that, I have myself taken a lot of online courses. Like I got into that rabbit hole, and I've had good ones, I've had bad ones. So if you're thinking about online courses, let me give you a few pointers, or let me tell you what you're actually buying, right? So online courses are information products. You buy something and you get information. The thing is, information is all free now. Most of it is free. I would say majority of it is free. You can find it some way, somehow. So why should you buy a course then? Why should you pay for information? Well, if you are looking at an online course, these are the things that you're paying for. You are paying for systems, right? You're paying for systems in the sense that there is a structured way to deliver that knowledge to you so that you can understand it and apply it to your situation and get the results you want. So you are paying for the curriculum, or you're paying for how it is delivered to you, how they package it, and how they teach you, how they make you understand the concepts. Also, systems can be things like templates, like let's say organizational templates, like let's say Instagram creative templates, stuff like that. So those are systems. The other thing you can pay for is network. So if your online course has a group of people that interact frequently, and you think that it would be beneficial for you to be a part of that group, then go for it. I think network, or the people you know, the people you make friends with, the people that you can learn from through normal conversations, they are very useful, and they can be a very good investment in the long term. And another thing that you can pay for is also accountability. So with free information, you're more likely to glance through it, right? If you get something for free, you don't value it as much compared to when you pay for something. So there's a saying that people who pay attention, right? So if you pay money to learn something, then you're definitely gonna pay attention. So that's why your parents are always like, study hard, pay attention, because they're paying for your tuition, right? So you don't pay for it, then you don't realize, so you're just like, whatever. But if you pay for it, then you know how it feels, or you know that I need to get my money's worth, right? So that's the mindset that goes into it. And even if you make mistake, even if you get burnt, even if the course wasn't what you expected, or it was a scam, or whatever it is, or it's too big of a risk that you took, then that's okay. My friend used to tell me that mistakes are money in the bank if you learn from it. So if you make the mistake and you learn from it, then you might be, it might be the best thing that has ever happened to you, right? Because you're going to be wiser, and you can potentially avoid a bigger mistake coming for you in the future. So yeah, don't be afraid of taking risks, but also know how much you're willing to risk and how much you can lose.
Wow, that was deep, I guess. So for investments, I think another thing that people think of like investment is stocks. So should people be afraid of investing in stocks?
Okay, I guess this is my question. You should be afraid of investing in anything that you do not understand.
That's
so
true.
it actually doesn't matter, right? Like if you go through if you read like traditional finance textbooks, they say that bonds are safer, stocks are riskier. But a lot of people would say, for example, Warren Buffett, right? He would say that bonds are risky, right? Why? Because he has the ability to invest in stocks, to invest in businesses. So opting for a lower return stock is a lower return asset class in this case would be risky, right? The way to think about it is that, before you get the license for your driving license, it was risky for you to drive. After that, it's not. So what happened in between? What happened in between is knowledge and practice, right? So that's really what you need. Right? You need the right knowledge and you need to actually put it into practice, and then things will become much less risky, right? So yeah, that's my short answer to things. And sorry, just to add on as well, it's like usually people compare it to, for example, properties, right? Usually, I think for the sake of simplicity, I'll rank stock and cryptos because they're quite similar. They're both volatile and things like that. But they compare with properties, right? Now, let's take properties, right? People are saying it's very low risk, right? Properties usually sure go up. There's inflation. It helps protect you against inflation, things like that. But consider all the other risks about properties. For example, the fact that you need to save up a lot of money before you can even buy one property, especially if you live in the Klang Valley area, right? Then after that, when you think it's just about buying it, just curious, I'll ask the crowd, right? Like if a property is, let's say 1 million ringgit, how much do you need to save up to buy the property? And I hope you guys know, right? You're not going to save up 1 million ringgit to buy the property, right? You're going to save up a bunch, and then you're going to take the rest for loan, right? You guys want to guess? 100K for DP, okay? DP is down payment. Okay, anyone else wanna guess? Don't worry, no deductions for wrong answer.
I think like some of them are like me. We're just clueless of everything.
Okay. Now, I can tell you why Hakim says 100,000, right? Because the standard is you need to have a 10% down payment for your property, and then you borrow the remaining 900,000, okay, to buy the property. Absolutely, and don't feel bad about this, Hakim. That's 100% wrong. If you're buying a property value at 1 million ringgit, you need to spend at least 170 and 100 or 180,000 ringgit, because there are a lot of other fees involved. Again, if you don't know about this, you have no knowledge, it's risky, right? Your legal fees, a lot of all these stamp duties, all these other fees that you never hear of on. The property agent or the property sales agent will never tell you about things like that or sell them, right? So that's risky, right? 170,000. Even if, let's say, you buy a cheaper, more affordable one at 400,000, that's still 90,000 ringgit that you have to save up. So that's one. Then after, when you buy a property, you have to maintain it, right? You have to maintain it. You have to pay the installments. Usually, if you rent it out, then you gotta use the rent to pay the installments, right? So that's one risk. Then the third risk: what if your rent cannot cover the installments and the maintenance of all the other stuff? Then you have to pump in money every month just to make sure that you keep the property running. So I'm not saying that property is bad or anything. I'm just saying that every asset class that you buy, whether it's bonds, whether it's cash, whether it's stash away, whether it's stocks, whether it's properties, whether it's your own business, whether it's Dogecoin, whatever it is, all have their own risk. And the determinant as to whether or not it is risky It depends on how much you know, and how much you know will tell you what to avoid and what to buy, for example.
Cool. How about Adley? What do you think about this?
Yeah, I'd like to add on that. It's like, I came across this saying, it's like, stocks are not risky, crypto is not risky, this housing is not risky, you are risky, right? You are the risk factor in the equation, right? Stocks are going to be up and down, they're going to be what they are, but how much risk is brought to the table depends on you. So I think the question was, should you be afraid to invest in stocks? Yeah, I think if you're afraid, that's quite normal. But should you still do it? Yeah, just do it. If you can afford to lose the money, then do it. Like, if you're afraid, go small. Like, dip your toes in. Right? Don't just jump in the pool. Dip your toes in, and if you lose money or if it doesn't turn out as you expected, the lesson that you get from doing things that you fear will outweigh that 50 ringgit you lost or whatever amount you lost. So there are two sides, two types of people, right? On one end, there are people who are really afraid to take any sort of risk. So maybe they have an income, but they are afraid to invest in stocks or whatever it is. And then the other person is like, always taking risks, even though they cannot afford that risk. So you kind of want to find out what type of person you are. And then, like we were talking about earlier, just figure out how much you can lose. So if you are afraid of something, if you're afraid of putting your money somewhere, just think about, how much are you willing to lose? Right? Because if you put your money in the bank, say you put it in Maybank or CIMB, like, should you be afraid that, like it shuts down, or like there's a flaw in the system, or like, the monetary system, something's wrong with it, and things get shut down and you don't get your money, like Venezuela? Maybe, yeah, there's a risk to that, but you still do it. So if you are the type of person who is afraid, and you think you're not taking enough risks, then do things that you are afraid of doing. I think you will find out that you are capable of experiencing or withstanding more than you think.
Cool. There's a question from the Slido that I think everyone wants it to be answered because there's like 6 likes on it. Will you guys recommend us to invest in US stocks or Malaysian stocks with a small amount of money, like 1,000 ringgit? I have to think.
Okay, 1,000 ringgit, right? Okay, so again, I go back to my the first thing in the earlier part, right? If you have 1,000 ringgit, your primary focus is to add zeros behind that 1,000.
Yeah.
Right. The first 100,000 is the hardest. Speaking from personal experience, adding 2 zeros is not easy. So you want to actually focus on that first. And unfortunately, and I'm from the stock investing field, I have every interest to say the opposite, but unfortunately, you're not going to do that with stocks. Right. And I assume that is your goal, right? I assume everyone in this room, right, would like to have 100,000 by the time they are, let's say, 30, for example. Right. So I would like to assume. So yeah, that should be a primary focus. Now, there's a second component to the question, right, which is essentially asking, is it like, are you going to get more gains in the US versus Malaysia? Now, if you're just talking about what we call index funds, right, like the ones you see in Stashaway, obviously US is the better option. However, if you're going to invest in individual stocks, at the end of the day, the way you succeed in individual stocks is if you understand the business, you understand as many aspects, the important aspects of the business, and you buy it at a decent time, right? You don't buy it at any time, for example. So, and that would mean that you might have more edge in Malaysian market, right? Because think of it this way, the stock market is a very competitive environment. Many people are looking at the same stock that you're looking at. Now, would you want to compete with your fellow Malaysians, or would you like to compete with the best in the world, which is the United States? They are absolutely the best, right? If you guys watch Wolf of Wall Street, if you guys watch The Big Short, what happens in those movies are not too far off than in what happens in the US, right? So it's not easy investing in the US. I know all of you guys who have graduated into a world where the US stock market has done really well. Okay. The problem with that is that there's a good chance that you may think that that is the world. But the stock market goes up and down, and there are many periods. If you graduated in 2008, you would not feel like putting money into the US stock market because it was you see my background was up in flames, right? So try to move away from like which geography is better. Focus on actually what you're passionate about and what you understand. So if you're passionate about US stocks and you have the capabilities to understand it, go for it. If it's Malaysia, then the same thing. If you're passionate about it, do you understand it? And in fact, between passion and understanding is more important, right? I'm passionate about some technologies, AI and all that, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to be a good investor in AI. It's what you understand that helps you make money consistently.
How about Adley?
Yeah. So which one should you invest in, US or Malaysia? If you had 1,000 ringgit, whichever you understand better. That's it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, coming into investing, another question that is also asked quite a lot of times, like, should I invest in a lot of things at once or just one at a time? Because someone said that they were advised by professionals that they should just put in for one. MJ?
Sorry, that last part I don't quite understand. They were advised by professionals to invest in one what? What? Sorry, I need to clarify that question.
Sorry, let me just get the question again. Yeah. Okay, so they said they were told by financial experts to not diversify and buy only one stock.
Really? Wow. Because the financial advisors I know usually tell people to diversify into a lot. So that's very interesting. Yeah, but you see, the question is like the question that doesn't make sense to me, and no offense, but the reason it doesn't make sense is because what stock is it?
They just mentioned stock, so I'm not sure as well.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is that you need to actually know the answer to that question, right? Because if the stock is some random stock that you just kind of like roll a dice to find the stock, then yeah, it's not a good idea. But if the stock is the next Tesla or the next Amazon or the next public bank, then it's not a bad idea, right? I know, for example, my mom's colleague at public bank didn't have a degree, not like super educated, but all he did his life, whatever spare savings he had, because he worked at public bank, he would just put money into public bank, he would just buy one stock. And he did that for like 30 years. And then when he retired, he didn't earn a lot, right? As a general manager. But at the end of the day, he still retired with 5 million ringgit portfolio. And then his wife has a 2 to 3 million ringgit portfolio, just public bank stocks. Those stocks gave all his 3 children a good education. They were able to buy other properties, go on nice holidays because of that. So that's why I go back to the question, what stock is it? And I think that if the financial advisor actually said that, it is actually somewhat irresponsible, because the question is, what stock is it? In the same way, if a financial advisor said the complete opposite, which was to buy many stocks, is also somewhat irresponsible, because diversification actually means that you have to manage more stocks now. I guess that is a little bit better than the one who said just buy one stock, because they even say what stock it is.
So I think it's like it all depends on what stock it is at the end of the day. Okay. And since you mentioned public bank, right? For maybe Adley, when should we, students, sign up for our first credit card? Like when we are eligible to sign up for a card. So when should we sign up for a credit card?
When should you sign up for a credit card? I think when you can pay your credit card debt on time, all the time, without spending more money than you usually do. So the problem with credit card is two things. The first thing is you don't pay on time and you're paying an absurd amount in terms of penalties. So that's one thing. So if you cannot pay on time, then just don't get a card. Like, think about it this way. The way banks make money from the credit cards is from you not paying on time. And banks are very rich, which means most people don't pay on time. So if you can't pay on time, then just don't get it. That's what I would say. Second thing is, even if you do pay on time, like I do pay on time, but when you spend with a credit card, you tend to spend more than you would spend with cash, right? When you spend with cash, when you hand over cash or when you transfer money from your bank account and you see your cash going away, like departing from your hand, or you see your bank account going down in number, deducting a number, it actually activates a pain trigger in you and it hurts, right? So you feel it. But if you're spending on a credit card, that pain trigger is delayed till the end of the month. So you are delaying that necessary hurt feeling, I would say. So this happened to me. First few months I had a credit card, I paid it all on time, but I would spend more money than I usually would because it's just tap and you don't, you don't feel it. You just, pay for grab food, dinner, whatever it is. So yeah, those two things. I would start with pay your credit card on time. If you can pay it on time all the time, then get it. And if you think that you're spending more than you usually do, track your spending, right? With credit cards, you can track your spending right now. And if you notice that you're spending a lot more than you usually do when you have a credit card, then get rid of it. But if you can fulfill those two things, then it could be a useful tool and you're ready to get one.
I think it's quite important for everyone to just get to know their own cash flow every month, right? Yeah. So for MJ, is it common for young adults to take up loans such as like car loans or mortgages? And how do we know we are ready and how should we manage these loans?
So your first question, is it common? Yes, it is. But again, common does not mean good idea. So that is something you need to take note of. Transport, for example, is the second most expensive thing that you spend on a recurring basis. So think very hard about the kind of cars you buy and the reasons you buy the cars for. Sorry, can you repeat your second question? I didn't quite get it.
When do we know we are ready to take up loans? I think it's the same thing, just to know about our own cash flow and understand how we can, pay back, right? So how should people manage these loans that they have?
Okay, so so you take a step back. So the question is, the more important question I will ask is, how much money can you save a month? Now, the reason is because if you're able to save money, even with all these loans, then you are probably ready. But then if you want to go even deeper, which you should, is to ask yourself, can you save, for example, 20% of your income every month? If you're able to save 20% of your income every month, then take whatever loan you want, because you are in a pretty stable place in terms of your cash flow and all that, right? So if you can't, if whatever loans you're taking can't enable you to save money, then it's usually a bad idea. And not just save money, but save a considerable amount of income. And for those of you who don't know, the average Malaysian, which is, I'm quite proud to say as a Malaysian, the average Malaysian actually saves, I believe, 22 to 23% of their income every month. So if you want to be average, then you should try to strive for 20% a month. And of course, if you want to achieve whatever you want to call it, financial freedom, financial confidence, whatever word you want to add behind financial, you have to go beyond that. So to give you guys a sense, right? If you save 15% of your income every month, and you grow that whatever money you save at 5%, you can retire in 40 years. Okay, 15%. If you save 30% of your income, you can retire in 28 years. If you save, I believe, 50% of your income, you can retire in 16 years. Yes, and if you save 75% of your income, you can retire in 9 years. So these are very important math for you. So what does this mean for the loans, right? It means that if you want to retire faster, either you make a lot more money or you save a lot more, or rather if you want to handle the loan, you should find a way to increase your income and make sure that you are able to save money. That's really what it is. Now this won't apply for everybody. My personal recommendation is for like housing, for example, try to not go beyond a third of your income. For your transport, and when I say transport, I don't just mean your car installment. I mean whether it's your road tax, your future maintenance. So this is a bit hard to calculate, but it's there. Like you change your tire and service your car and all that. The oil you pay, the parking you have to pay, right? The wonderful payments you have to make every month. If you take Grab, that's also included. If you take the LRT, that's included as well. Things like that. So oil, right? I said oil already. So you will take all that into account. Try not to go beyond 20%. So in other words, right, your housing and your transport should not be more than half of your income to be average, to be okay. So if you want more than okay, you know what you have to do.
Cool. Wow, that was a lot of things to think about. Cool. So
Oh, actually, I just want to add.
Sure.
Right? So here's a pro tip for you. So the housing, the way you can save up on housing is either if you have the privilege, stay back with your parents, or rent. Don't buy. If you buy, it's going to be twice the price. So if you find every place you find, especially in Klang Valley, right, in residential areas where you can rent for, let's say, 400, just assume that the installment is double that. So that's the first thing. So that's more for housing. A friend of mine, he has a famous saying. He say you if you want to drop your housing expenses, you have to drop your ego. So you have to downsize. 1, 2, for the car, this is a pro tip for you guys. If you spend more than 500 ringgit a month in Klang Valley for a car, please consider Grab. Okay. So 500 ringgit a month, for those of you who don't know, is actually about a Myvi for the installment alone, give or take. So if you plan on buying a Honda City or anything more than that, unless you're earning a lot of money, try to consider using Grab, because Grab is actually quite affordable. And for 500, and like I'll share with you guys, every month I spend about 200 ringgit on Grab, and I get by fine. So, but I'm lucky that I have an online business, so I don't need to travel as much. But maybe you need to travel a little bit more. Maybe you need to, travel further. Yeah, even at 500, it's still more affordable to do it through Grab.
What about Atlee? What do you think? Do you think buying a house is better or renting?
I would say rent as long as you can, right? Especially if you're young. The reason is because you will change. So you might like this house now, but you will change in the future. Like, especially if you're young, even if you're not so young anymore, you will change. Your preference will change. And yeah, I would say rent as long as you can. The only reason you should buy a house is if you know for sure that that's where you want to be long term, and you're kind of settled down, which is when like you're 30, 40, which I don't think any of you are here. So
yes. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So another question for Atlee. So you mentioned that you're freelancing as a digital marketing consultant as well. So how was your freelancing experience, and do you have any advice to those who wants to start freelancing?
Yeah, sure. So I think I saw a question as well that asked, how do you get started in digital marketing and how to make side income of it? So I'll talk about freelancing and I'll talk about digital marketing specifically. So how I started was I basically got a job. That's how I started, right? Yeah, I get a job. And I was lucky enough that my job was prepared me for freelancing because it was basically me handling clients. So it was a marketing agency. And I was, at the time, it was very small. I was the account manager. I was the person who did the ad creative. I executed the strategy. So I was basically, you could say, freelancing or consulting already. It's just that the marketing agency is like the middleman or the person that lays the roof so that the client and I can talk in the same house. So I was lucky enough that my job prepared me for freelancing and the nature of it as well. And at first, I would say if you're first getting started into freelancing, let's say you don't want a job or you can't get a job, then I would say take anything you can get in the beginning. If it's a free project, you just get a testimonial, you just get a recommendation, just take it, right? Because how much people are willing to pay you is how much value they think you can bring to their life or to their company. So in the beginning, of course, you're not going to be world-class at it. So treat your projects or treat your freelance clients as an opportunity to practice your skill and to get better, right? Any money you earn from that is just a bonus. But the main thing you want is the opportunity to practice on real life clients with real life problems that need real solutions, right? For marketing, for digital marketing, it's right. Like I would spend, let's say on a marketing budget, if I didn't have a client or if I didn't have a job, I wouldn't have the opportunity to handle, let's say 10,000 ringgit in ad spend per week. So that's like, I couldn't spend 10,000 ringgit a week on ads at the time. Like that just wouldn't make sense to me. I wouldn't have that opportunity. I wouldn't have that capital, right? But because I could use my client's money or the agency's money, then that was 10,000 ringgit worth of practice, right? Because that amount of money, you're responsible for it and you have to make something out of it. So that's what I would say. Try to get as many reps as you can, like you're in the gym, right? Just get as many projects as you can done. And then once you're getting good at it, once you see that your clients are getting results from your service or product, then you can start charging, right? For me, myself, there were a lot of times where I undercharged or I was being underpaid because at the time I wasn't really confident in my skills and I didn't see the value I was bringing, right? But I guess in digital marketing, you can see, right? Like, oh, I did this campaign and this campaign brought you this amount of money. So like, yeah, you can see how much, you can see the tangible results that you bring to your clients. So to dive into a bit more into digital marketing, there was a question on how to start a digital marketing journey and making side income. So I think everything that has been shared in this session, or everything that you will learn, everything that you will hear, you can break them down into principles, strategies, or tactics, right? And principles are things that are very core and they can be transferred to other things. Like, let's say, for example, one principle is save more money than you spend. And you can transfer that to like produce more than you consume, or at least don't consume more than you need, right? For the planet or for whatever. So one of the principles, like we said earlier, is if you don't have a main income, don't focus on your side income yet, right? Make it your main income. And if you are not ready to devote a lot of your time, energy, and effort into digital marketing or whatever it is, whatever painting, dancing, whatever it is, then if you're just doing it just for side income, then it's going to be very hard because you're going to be competing with people who actually love to do it. So right, I studied law in uni, and in my second year, I already know that I wasn't going to work as a lawyer. Why? Because if I did, I didn't enjoy it as much, and I would be competing with people who love studying law or who love the law, who are geeks about it, right? So it's a very hard competition. And I guess that's where the follow your passion thing comes from. But there is some truth in that, is that because if you are working really hard on something that you don't enjoy, it's very hard. You might get you might achieve some results, but when you go high level, when you want to grow, you're going to be competing against the people who really love it. And you don't want to waste your time on something that you quit halfway, or you want to be very careful and pick something that you can develop and master over the years that will still be relevant. So that's the principle. If you want to start a digital marketing specific freelancing career, then some strategies that you can use are, so like, what is digital marketing? Like, I like to see things as they happen to me. So when you go on Instagram, like, look at the ads. When you go on YouTube, look at the ads. Like, I go on Instagram to look at the ads, that they serve me, right?
Cool.
And I love good ads. When I see a good ad, I'm like, oh, this is really good. And maybe I would entertain it a bit, YouTube and stuff like that. But when it's a bad ad, I was like, I give a review or whatever. But yeah, that's basically, digital marketing is very broad. There's a lot that goes into it, but that is one aspect to it, right? How do you get attention from strangers to know your business and like your business and then buy from you? So if you want to start, one of the strategies I would say is just pay attention to how you are being marketed to. And we are being marketed to all the time, especially now. So when you're on Instagram, just look at the ads. When you're on YouTube, look at the ads. Is there something that appeals to you? Do you think that, oh, if this ad was this way, it would be more interesting to me, I would be more appeal to it? Because that's how I think when I see the ads. So yeah, if you want to start, one of the strategies I would say, or one of the tactics I would say, is pay attention to what you're seeing. So let's say if you want to be a salesperson, pay attention to how people sell to you when you go to a shop, right? If you go to, can't think right now, but if you go to the car showroom, that's a very sleazy example, but yeah, just pay attention to how they pitch to you. Like, I love it when someone is a good salesperson and really pitches to me well, because I really like it. If you want to be, there are a lot of examples of that. If you want to be a lawyer, just pay attention to, maybe you don't encounter lawyers, but yeah, just pay attention, because all these services, or most of them, they're happening, you use them. It's either you use them or you encounter them. So yeah, just that.
Cool. So I think we can move on to the questions from Slido. So the question with like 6 likes, thoughts on investing on popular cryptocurrency and stocks like Bitcoin and Dogecoin and GameStop. Mingjie, or you can tell us a bit.
Okay, so let's start with Bitcoin. So I believe in the story of Bitcoin. I think that if you I don't think that you are wrong for investing Bitcoin. As in, don't feel bad for not investing in Bitcoin, but you should feel bad for not studying cryptocurrencies and the crypto world in general. Because whether you like it or not, whether Bitcoin will be around, like, people think that if Bitcoin goes to zero, nobody has to care about cryptocurrencies anymore. That's not true. Cryptocurrency is a very big space. The blockchain space is very big. And if you're someone interested in money, in finance and business, if you don't study about the most important development in fintech history, then you are missing out. The knowledge, not necessarily the investment gains. So yeah, just study it, right? Spend time studying, spend time understanding why is it, right? Don't just think of it purely as a speculative investment or asset where you can make a big chunk of money overnight, right? Yeah, there are a lot of crypto millionaires right now. And again, that shouldn't be your motivation. Of course, if you study it well and if you know a way to invest well, by all means, go for it. So that's Bitcoin. Or Dogecoin, for those of you who don't know, it's literally created as a joke. So yeah, that's it. The founders themselves say it is a joke, but people are not taking it as a joke because Elon Musk is saying it's not a joke. So therefore, it's not a joke. So you assess for yourself whether that is a smart way of investing. Do things accordingly. And go back to the example of flipping the coin that I gave earlier, right? Whether you should invest in Dogecoin or not, all depends on where you stand, right? How much money you put in and things like that. So that's something you need to think about. So that's a two. Is there another one that GameStop? Yeah, GameStop is another silly way of investing because they call it social media investing. They hope for popular platforms like Reddit and Twitter to pump the stock up. Again, all of this threads back to the same issue that all of us have, which is that we want money quickly, and if we can do it in style, we'll do it. Again, not good idea. What you want to look at is not rich people. You want to look at old rich people because they are rich for a long, long time. Anyone can make ringgit, but most people who make ringgit lose that ringgit very quickly, or US dollar, whatever it is. That's why most people who are athletes, most people who are models, most people who are football players, most people who win the lottery, i.e., they get a lot of money very quickly, end up not being in a good financial place in their 40s and 50s because they blow it all. So fast money is very dangerous. Of course, if it happens to you, fantastic, nothing wrong. Just know that just because you made a lot of money very quickly does not mean that life is going to be smooth. It will not be. And don't invest in hype. I would say, it's not a good idea.
I think investment is just like another way of gambling, right? So
well, it is gambling if you don't know what you're doing, right? Like,
yeah,
why is it that certain people can go to the casino and consistently make money out of it? Because they actually do the maths behind it. They actually know, right? So again, whether an investment is a gambling or not will depend on how well. Again, I think Ali has said this many times as well, is whether you understand it or not. And once you understand it, it becomes an investment. If you don't understand it, it becomes becomes speculation, all on the same asset.
Yeah. So, how about Adley? Do you have like any takes on this?
Yeah. So I think this will address all the other questions on what do you think about REITs? What do you think about real estate? What do you think about AirAsia? What do you think about Stashaway? So I want to give you a different perspective, right? The idea is you are playing a different game. So just because someone owns REITs or Bitcoin or stocks doesn't mean you should own them too, because you are playing a different game from other people. This is something I learned from the book, The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel. You want to write that down because it's an awesome book. I recommend everyone read it. So he talks about the dot-com bubble or the 2008 financial crisis in the US. So what happens is there are these speculative traders who, for lack of a better word, they ride the wave, right? So they're buying a lot of these stocks because they want to ride it up. And their intention, the game they're playing, is to sell in the short term. But when the prices go up, all these mom and pop investors in their 40s who want to retire in 10 years, they think it's a good thing, it's a good sign. So they also buy the stock, but they're playing a different game. Their game is to sell in the next 10, 20 years. So this is an example of people doing what other people do when these two groups of people are playing a different game. So always remember that you are playing a different game from everyone else. Your situation and your circumstances are unique to you. Okay, so now that we know we are different in terms of situation and we're playing a different game from other people, how do we know what's the best investment for us? Well, first you have to understand, you have to think about what do you want from your investment? What are your expectations, right? In terms of how much money you're expecting to get back and how much time, energy, and mental energy you're going to put into thinking about it, right? Do you expect to just put your money in, just coast and not think about it, just put in every month? Or are you expecting to check on it every month, right? Be like aware of warning signals, be ready to sell when you understand that there's something going wrong. So understand what you want and what you expect before you make an investment. And then the other thing is, just understand the investment itself and understand your time horizon. So how long are you going to hold it for? Why are you buying it? What are the convictions you have towards it? So people buy Bitcoin because they believe in it. People buy Dogecoin because they believe in it. People buy mutual funds because they believe in it. So what do you believe in? And what can use, if you want to go that route of being active and monitoring it and like putting time and effort into it, then what do you enjoy researching, right? If it's stocks, like I enjoy like learning about businesses like Apple, Tesla. I like to learn about their business model, how they make money, right? How they position themselves within the competition or in the market. So I like to learn about those things because I like the business side of it. So conveniently, that's where I would invest my money, because naturally, if you go to my YouTube feed, the algorithm knows that I like to learn about these companies, right? I watch the latest tech iPhone videos, right? All those things. So I'm always up to date. So that's where my inclination is. So that's where more so my energy, effort, or money will be put. So find out what kind of person you are, and then find out what you can get lost into, and you just enjoy watching and staying up to date in news, and you will find your answer there.
Right. So what about the best way, since you mentioned that we have to understand to, to properly invest stuff. So what is the best way for us to get educated about stocks and strategies? Maybe you can start with MJ. MJ, good?
Sorry.
Sure.
I did not. Can you repeat the question? There's something.
Okay, sure.
In the background. So sorry.
It's okay. What's the best way for us to get educated about stocks and strategies?
All right, I'm going to be super shameless. Please watch our YouTube channel.
Yes.
Okay, that is the best way. No, but really, let's assume FIRO didn't exist. What should you do? Okay, go read books, right? Start with One Up on Wall Street by Peter Lynch. Very good book. Phil Fisher, Common Stocks and Uncommon Profits. Really good. If you like more advanced stuff, Intelligent Investor, fantastic. If you want super advanced stuff, Security Analysis. These are fantastic books you should read. And when it comes to strategies, actually, it's more what you learn externally. It's more internal. The question when it comes to strategies is what type of lifestyle do you have, and what type of person are you? Right? Are you someone who just enjoys looking at the market all the time? If you are, then maybe you shouldn't be investing. You should be doing more trading, for example, where the time frame is a lot shorter. But for others, if you just want to buy, and then if you treat it like you're owning a business, then what we teach and talk about at FIRO is definitely the way to go. So that's how you can get educated. Yeah.
How about Adley? What's your strategy?
Yep. So read books, learn YouTube, Google, whatever it is. So two aspects to it. First is to learn it conceptually, like what you're doing right now. You are coming to this session, you are learning conceptually, you're listening, right? Or whether it's YouTube, whatever. And then the next step is to reality test what you learn, right? So go practice it, try it. And that's when you know whether or not what you learn works in reality. So this applies to even this session we're having right now, right? Just because we're telling you, we're giving you advice, and just because we have a certain amount of followers on social media doesn't mean our advice will work for you. You have to reality test it and make sure it works for your circumstance. If it doesn't work, then try something else.
Cool. So what platform do you recommend to buy stocks, MJ?
Okay, so actually, if you really want to know about platforms to buy stocks, go watch Ziet Invest channel, right? It's a fellow YouTube creator. He's really good when it comes to, basically his YouTube channel specializes on what platforms you should buy, not just local, but also foreign stocks. Now, in terms of buying a stock, I will tell you which ones I use, for example, and what are my thoughts. But there are three basic criteria for you to consider. Number one is fees. So whether it's affordable, is it the cheapest around? Number two is whether or not the user interface is good when you actually key in trades and things like that. So that's the second one. The third one is the service. So how are they like, for example, when they treat you and when they talk to you. Now, in terms of what I use personally, I use CanTrade Kenanga. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. CanTrade has very good fees. They have a decent user interface. Service, I'm not so sure. Right? Hong Leong, I would say, has all three to be quite good, to be really good. Another one you can consider is Rakuten, right? I think Rakuten is very good. The only problem is that they tend to crash sometimes, especially when there's a lot of activity. So that's something you need to take note of. And then one that I've been hearing good stuff on that you can consider looking at is actually M+. M+ is run by a very capable team. And, they are still very small compared to the other players. And you do want to consider M+. Now, why is small good? Because usually small means good service, right? You are one of their very few clients. And if they want to grow, they have to treat you very nice so that you say nice things about them. So that is another one you can consider.
Cool. And Adley?
The one you like the most, man. How do you know which one you like the most? Just go on YouTube, watch the tutorials, watch the interface, and find out what you need from it, and just pick the one you like the most.
Cool. So would you buy in popular growing stocks with a relatively high price already? Would it be overvalued, like Genting Malaysia?
Yeah, there is no way that whatever answer I give will be just half an hour long. It's a very, very big question. I doubt this is the question for it. But again, the fact that you ask the question means that you do not understand the business. If you understood it well, you would know whether something is overvalued or undervalued to a pretty decent degree. So go do that. Go actually figure out, like for example, Genting, right? If you say it's would it be overvalued? Well, okay, overvalued compared to what? Right? Why is it overvalued? Right? Things like that. Have you compared them with other casino companies around the world? Other hospitality companies around the world, right? So these are some of the things you need to do as a stock investor. So go do that.
Cool. So Adley, would you advise us to put our money in mutual fund?
It's quite a it depends, man. Like, if it depends on your situation. If you've done your research and you think that is the best place, then yeah. If, like for me, if let's say I have some spare money, I'm thinking, oh, should I put my money in a mutual fund? Right? I can ask as many people as I want. Some people are going to say yes, some people are going to say no, because it works for some people, it doesn't work for other people, or maybe they don't like it. So what I will do is I would just try it myself, put some money in that I'm willing to lose, and see whether it's suitable for me. Yeah.
How about MJ?
So I'll be completely upfront. I never had a bad experience with mutual funds because I never invested in mutual funds. Now, the thing you need to consider when it comes to mutual funds is that for some reason in Malaysia, the fees are very high. So there are two very important fees when it comes to mutual funds that you need to take note of. The first is sales charge. So it usually range anywhere between 4.8 to 5.5% of your money. So if you put in 100,000 straight away, the agent and the company selling the mutual fund takes 5,500, let's say 5,000 ringgit straight away without doing anything, right? The second fee is management fees, or sometimes they call it MER, right? Management expense ratio. So this is the money they charge you, or the money that you have given them after the sales charge every single year. So this one can range anywhere between 1.2, sometimes even 1% to 2%. Now, what this means is that whichever fund that you buy, especially in Malaysia, the minute you buy it, you're already down anywhere between 5 to 7%. Okay? So whatever it is, that year, the fund manager who is managing the mutual fund have to make more than that. Right? So you think of it starting a 100-meter race, but then behind the line, not on the line. Okay? So that's something you need to take note of. Now, one of the reasons why Stash Away has been so popular is because they don't have all these fees. And it's a lot cheaper now. So does this mean don't put your money in mutual fund? No, this just means that your standards for choosing a mutual fund should be very high. You should pick a mutual fund that can make you more than 7, 8, 9% a year. And there are, but I can share you guys the number. Okay, we did a research, out of 613 funds that are Malaysia based, only 10 generate more than double-digit returns. So those are your odds.
Cool. So the next question. So due to time restraints, we will answer like 2 more questions and then we will end the session. So the next question is, how do you usually screen for good stocks and what are the things that you look at in the company? So MJ, you can go first.
Okay, so the first thing is to remove the word screen from your vocabulary. The reason is because if you Google online right now, you can find many stock screeners. And what a stock screener is trying to tell you is that it can shortcut your journey to finding good stocks. That is not true for 2 reasons. One, if you remember, and Adley talked a lot about principles earlier on, right? One principle you need to take note of is that if it was so simple to find a good stock, everyone would do it. And if everyone can do it, it's not a good stock anymore. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is that usually screening stocks online will give you what we call false positives. In other words, you predetermine the criteria, yes, but that doesn't mean that whatever shows up is going to be good. Because think of it, it's just a computer algorithm. So it's only as good as the criteria that you put inside. And if you have the wrong mixture of criteria, which is very often, then you will not get a good buffet of stocks when you screen the stock. So that's the first thing. Now, the second question is a much more important question, and it's a very good question, which is, what are the things that you look at in a company? So there are 3 things you need to look at when you consider a company. 4, sorry. The first is that you want the company to have what we call a long runway. So it has many years in the future when it comes to their potential. So Adley, for example, mentioned Tesla, mentioned Apple. These are companies that as of now, based on available information, have very good on long runways, right? So that's number 1. Number 2, you want to know what the company's moat is. So the moat of a company is basically meaning, right, okay, they may have a long runway, like that, like for example, Apple's with smart gadgets, and then Tesla with electric vehicles. Now, just because a company has a long runway doesn't mean that they will reach the finish line, because there are other competitors, right? So how do you know if Tesla will be the one that dominates electric vehicles and Apple will continue dominating smart gadgets? Is to figure out if they have a moat. Now, what is a moat? A moat is simply a competitive edge that will help them protect their profits from investors. So, for example, Apple's moat is that it is actually not an electronic; it is a lifestyle brand. Nobody buys an Apple because the technology is really good. In fact, Huawei, Samsung, all their advertisements centers around how good their camera is, how fast the speed of the processors are, and things like that, right? But Apple's very different, the way they market to you. Just to share with you guys a story, if you guys don't mind, it's a longer story. But do you all remember this thing called a Walkman?
Yep.
Do you remember a Walkman?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the way the Walkman, right, was promoted, right, marketed, and Ellie, this is since you are in digital marketing and ads, this will interest you a little bit. The way the Walkman was promoted, right, was that it has don't know how many 250 gigahertz of storage, the first in the market. So that was how they're marketing it to people. We have 250 gigahertz worth of storage, something like that. I can't remember. No, it's not gigahertz. Kilobytes. Sorry, 256 kilobytes worth of storage. So he kept saying that. So when Apple came onto the scene, what they did was how they market the iPod. You all remember the iPod? Do you still remember that? Okay. The way they market the iPod is 1,000 songs in your pocket. So which is the better app, right? So the way Apple has always marketed themselves is a lifestyle brand. It's very difficult. And you know, when you're on the Apple ecosystem, right, then you want to buy a Mac, then you need to buy their overpriced AirPods. Then you need to what else? Then you need to buy you use their app store. Then maybe you buy an iPad, and then now there's iTag some more where it's all over the place where you can search for lost things, right? Then now they're coming out with the Apple Car. So then the next time you have an Apple phone and then you can connect it to your car, and then they're coming out with the Apple glasses. So your glasses will soon be able to do like Iron Man, you know, things like that, right? So that's Apple's mode, right? What is Tesla's mode? You know, that's a totally different discussion, but basically you want to find it because that's going to determine whether or not they can run that long runway. Just because they have a good runway doesn't mean that they'll be able to run the length. So that's the second thing. The third thing is that you want to make sure that you are buying the company at a reasonable price, right? A good investment can be a bad investment if bought at the wrong price. For example, in 1999, Microsoft, right? Microsoft had revenues growing at 30, 32, 33% every year, which is very good. Their profits were growing at 47% every year. So everyone thought it's a sure win. If you buy Microsoft stock in 1999, you will take 16 years to break even the price, whatever price you bought it at 1999. So how is it that you got a good company with a good runway, with a good moat, right? If you guys use Microsoft Excel, you guys use PowerPoint, every year you have to pay them money unless you cheat and you do a pirated version. But every year you have to pay them money, right? You cannot live without Excel. You cannot live without PowerPoint. You cannot live without Microsoft Word. So how is it a company that can generate so much cash, is so profitable, such a good company, actually lose or stagnate investors' money for 17 years from 1999 to 2016? You guys can check the share price if you guys don't believe me. The reason is because you bought it at a price that was unreasonable at that point of time. That's the third thing. And the fourth thing is that you actually want to look at the management, who's running the show, right? What is the background? What are his past achievements, if there are any? How does he treat his fellow board members? How does he treat his fellow management team? How does he treat his staff? What is the vision of the company? How consistent he is? How honest he is? Things like that. So these are the four criteria to look at when it comes to deciding whether you should invest in a company. And this actually applies to if you are investing in non-public markets like private companies and all that.
Cool. All right. So let's move on to the final question. I'll just choose this one that's at the top. Are there any tangible assets that I can invest in compared to stocks, Adley?
Yeah, definitely. There are a lot of things. A house is the most common example, but things like watches, antiques, paintings, some cars, a lot of things, as long as like NFTs or like stuff like that. Oh wait, NFT is not tangible, but
not yet.
Oh, yeah. There are lots of things, you know. You could buy like the original PlayStation vintage version, and you could sell it, or you could buy comic books. You could buy baseball cards, stuff like that. So definitely there are a lot of things, tangible things. If you like tangible things, then and if you can, you know, learn about it and you understand the market, then maybe that's for you.
Cool. I invest in K-pop. That's a little extra thing.
How? Actually, just how? Like, you get an NFT of Jennie from Blackpink or what?
There's like photo cards, and the prices can actually go up to like 500 per card.
Okay, which star is 500 ringgit?
You can search up like NCT.
Oh, the guy one. Okay, I don't know the guy one. I only follow the girls one for obvious reason.
It's like Pokemon cards.
Yeah, it's like Pokemon cards. So it's like basically the same thing. So this brings us to the end of our session tonight. So once again, a very big thank you to Atlee and MJ for sharing so many useful insights with us. And of course, all our participants who made our event possible. Now, before you go, it would be helpful that all of you submit this feedback form. So here's the QR code to the feedback form, and my team will also send the link in the chat box in a bit. So your feedback is really very much appreciated to help us improve on our future events, be it AKPK or even FLAG. Now, in the meantime, if you have already submitted the feedback form, you can follow us on our Instagram account. And for those who are asking for the YouTube channels or like the videos of Atlee and MJ, you can just scan their socials and you can search more from there. So yeah, do send in your feedback form because it will really help us to improve for our future. So my team has already sent in the links for everything: the YouTube channel, Instagram accounts, feedback form, and yes. All right. So if you're a Taylorian and is interested in joining Taylor's AKPK Club, just click the link as well in the chat box to sign up as a member. And if you have any questions regarding the club, feel free to ask us in the chat box or send us a DM on Instagram at taylors.akpk. We are more than happy to assist you. So that is all from us today. Remember to please send in the feedback form and have a great weekend ahead. Thank you all for joining us tonight.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night.
Good night. Good night.